All right. Hey, everybody. Rob Kosberg here with Bestseller Publishing. Excited to be with you today. I think I have some things, at least from conversations that I've had with many of you, that you're going to enjoy and appreciate. I want to talk about 3 simple steps to use your best-selling book to craft a compelling offer. And the things that you need to really think about and the questions really that you need to answer to craft a compelling offer. So I'm going to go off video. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to do a little whiteboard stuff. And then I'm actually going to show you an example of if we were creating a new business in a specific niche. I picked one that I know very well, and what I would do, or if you were in my position, what you should do to both research and get the help that you need to craft your compelling offer. Okay, so let's, without further ado, let me share my screen and let's dive right in. I'm going to bring my handy whiteboard over. Make sure that we're all good there. Excellent. Okay, so I have 3, as I said, simple steps, and so I'm just going to outline them on a simple model that I think will be helpful. I'm going to express what the model is, and then I'll go off this page and I'll kind of break down those 3 steps, and then we'll actually do a little practical stuff, and I'll talk to you about, okay, this is what I would do, this is what you should do if you are actually, from a practical purpose, doing this for yourself and maybe reworking your new offer or creating a brand new offer from scratch. So there are 3 simple steps. I just call them who, what, and how. And then as that's really the first step. And then as the details begin to get worked out, you go into, of course, one thing leads to another here, but then it actually circles back around, and it's kind of who squared, what squared, how squared, and there's a research phase in all of this. Okay. So we want to answer 3 really specific questions from our book. And honestly, if you haven't written your book yet, or if you're in the process of writing your book, you really want to answer these questions prior to writing your book, because if you start with a great offer and you go from there, then your book is going to be able to communicate your value to the marketplace, and it'll be able to communicate your offer even better. So ideally, you want to start that way from the beginning. However, if you haven't, then you can take your expertise and maybe part of the content of your book, and then go from there to craft a compelling offer to your marketplace. So let's go off here. Let's get a new one, and then let's talk about what each of these really mean. So first, I talked about the who, the who. Now, the who is nothing more than you answering very, very specifically who it is that you help. Very, very specifically. Now, when I say specifically, I mean as much as you can niche down your offer and to who your offer is going to relate to, the better. In one sense, what I do, and I'll use what I do as an example, and I'll even use that in the research phase. In one sense, what I do is very, very broad. However, what makes what I do specific is the delivery of what I do. And here's what I mean by that. My market itself this is kind of 2-dimensional thinking. My market itself is very broad from the standpoint that I can work with anybody that is an expert, an entrepreneur, a thought leader, someone that wants to write a book that's maybe an autobiography. We've even done children's books and fiction books and those kinds of things. Again, specific to what it is that that person wants. And so that is incredibly broad. I would never, never, never want or suggest that you enter a market that broad unless you had a deliverable that was so narrow and so specific to that marketplace. My deliverable is I help that expert, that entrepreneur, that thought leader, that person that wants to write their autobiography. I help them to bring that to life. I help to get the book written. I help to get the book published, marketed to, successfully to bestseller, and then, of course, what that author wants. So you can think of this who a little bit 2-dimensionally. For most people, if you're a consultant, for example, or a coach, you can't think broad when it comes to your market, because you're already broad when it comes to your deliverable. As a coach, there's lots of things, or as a consultant, there's lots of things that you can help with within the specifics of somebody's business or life or relationships or fitness, etc. However, if you go very, very broad, then the market itself, your message is going to get left in the market. So lost in the market, excuse me. So you have to be very, very specific when it comes to who it is that you're speaking to. And I mean, picking an industry, for example. So, if you are a coach or a consultant, let's say, and you work with executives, C-suite executives, then I would say, one way to narrow that niche is to think in terms of industry. What if you focused on just the automotive industry? What if you focused just on the tech industry? What if you focus just on the energy industry? What if you focus just on the health care industry? Any of those industries would allow you to have an 8 or 9 figure business. Very, very easy to do that. From the standpoint of the size of the marketplace. So don't be afraid that, well, I'm going to pigeonhole myself just in one industry. No, figure out who it is that you are serving really, really specifically, who it is that you help. And that means perhaps what the demographics of that person are. That might mean, age, income. That might mean education, etc. You might want to think about the psychographics. And that, of course, might be what content they can consume, where they're found, what they read, what they watch, what type of affinity groups they're in, meaning like, are they golfers? Are they, sportsmen? Are they fitness nuts? Are they fill in the blank, craft beer makers, whatever. So you want to be really, really specific when it comes to the who that you're working with. Okay. If you're not, then you're probably too broad when it comes to the actual niche. This is where you have to start. You have to start with your customer. Who is your customer? You have to tell me that. When anybody tells me, I can really help any business, I can really help any person get into shape, then immediately I know that they're a little bit lost when it comes to being able to craft a fantastic offer that people are like foaming at the mouth for, because nobody wants to buy something that they don't feel like is personalized and special to them, right? You want to work with somebody that like really understands you. Like ideally, look, if I'm if I'm looking to do something with a personal trainer, I would want to do something with a personal trainer that really specializes in people my age, former athletes, maybe golfers, maybe, just to focus on who I am. Now you may say, well, that's just too narrow. Well, is it? I mean, there's, tens of millions of golfers, and there's tens of millions of people my age, and people my age do tend to have a little bit more money than people that are younger. I mean, that's a good market for a fitness professional to work in. There's nothing wrong with being as narrow as possible. You can always widen it a little bit later. Okay. That's number one. That is the who. And I can answer any questions about it as we go. For now, I don't see what your questions are on chat, so I'm just going to keep rolling. Number two is you need to answer what. You need to answer what. And that's ugly, so let me fix that. Okay, there we go. What? So what is the big question that you need to answer about the big problem of your ideal client? So you take that person, that avatar, that guy, that gal, that really specific customer that you want to help, and then you ask yourself, what is their bleeding neck problem? What is their bleeding neck problem? Now, that may be a little graphic, and forgive me for how graphic it is, but a bleeding neck problem simply means this is a problem that I cannot overlook any longer. This is something that I desire to change desperately, that I need to change desperately. If you have a cut finger, you might be able to just stick a bandage on that yourself and take care of it. If, your jugular is severed, you need to get to the hospital, right? You have a bleeding neck problem that an expert needs to take care of. So you have to answer that question. You start with the who, you're as specific as possible, and then you answer, okay, what is the big problem that they have that I can solve for them? If you can be as narrow as possible about that big problem, then you are going to be able to speak directly to them. And this becomes a really compelling offer to people. Sticking with our fitness analogy, if you did work with people in the fitness space that, maybe were recently diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and that were 50 or 100 pounds overweight, and they have now for the first time in their life made a decision that they have got to change their life. They've got to lose the 50 pounds. They've got to lose the 100 pounds because now, this diabetes, which I believe it's type 1, I'm obviously not a fitness expert, but, it's potentially reversible if they got all of the other factors under control, et cetera, whatever. But that person now there's a sense of desperation. And that person is searching online. That person is looking for books to read. And what are they looking for? They're looking for something very, very specific to their situation. That person is not going to read the Atkins diet book, right? That person is not going to read a general book on keto. What that person wants to read is a book that specifically, or an offer that specifically talks about their problem and the solution that they're interested in. So if you diagnose that bleeding neck issue, that big problem that they have, and you can communicate that that's something that you can fix, that is a compelling offer. You are well on your way. That's number 2. And then number 3, and we're going to come back around and do a little bit of practicals on these as well, so don't worry. Number 3 is how. Number 3 is how. Okay. So number 1, who, number 2, what, number 3, how. How is simply you being able to communicate how you can specifically help that person, right? That person wants to know the specifics of your solution. Okay. What is it that you have done before, or what is it that whether it's the title and subtitle of your book, whether it's a coaching program or a course, whether it's an offer that you're trying to express through a webinar or a speaking engagement or a challenge or whatever, you have to be able to express, okay, here's who I help, here's the problem that I solve, and here is specifically how I do it, right? Now, when I say that, there's a couple of different elements to it, The number 1 element is what the program itself looks like. Okay. Your actual offer doesn't need all of the details of the program, but you certainly do. And so what I mean by that is, perhaps if you were a coach or a consultant, you might have an 8-week course or an 8-week kind of working with somebody program to help them to get to the first milestone that they want to reach of success, that really shows them that, wow, they're making progress, things are changing, and now they want to continue to work with you. And you may have an offer from there that takes them from, okay, we hit the first milestone, now we have the next 6 to reach, and it's going to take us 1 year, and here's my program to do that, etc. You need to be able to express your solution in terms of the program, but you also need to express your solution in terms of the results that you get for people. Because a compelling offer isn't about like the number of weeks that you work with somebody. A compelling offer is not about like the number of hours that you are going to spend on the telephone with them or on a Zoom call with them. That's not what makes for a compelling offer. What makes for a compelling offer is that you can get them results. You have a solution to solve their bleeding neck problem and can get them results. And here's a little bit of extra credit for you. The easier you can get them results and the less of you that is involved is better for both of you. Okay. In other words, going back to our fitness example, if you were to tell me that you had a program that got incredible results, I'd get my six-pack abs at 56, and what I would have to do is I'd have to work out with you 3 hours a day, every single day for the rest of my life. I'd say, okay, let's try something else, right? However, if you told me that you could get me those results and you could do it by just giving me this pill to take, holy cow, what would that pill be worth? Because it's not the time with you that I'm interested in, it's the results that I'm interested in, right? So, in the same way, don't think of your program, whether it's an 8-week course or a year-long coaching program or fill in the blanks of whatever it is that you offer. Don't think, well, what I need to do is give them more of me. No, no, more of you is not really what they're looking for. Now, there's always people that will want more of you, and that's okay. I mean, there's something about being connected and having relationship, and I'm all for that. But what people are looking for is they want a solution. They want like a program that's simple to follow, and ultimately they want results. Now, there's a couple of different ways to communicate results. I'm not going to go into all the minutia of that, but obviously you have to be able to get their results, and you should also have a great deal of, as much as possible, of social proof of your results. Okay. So that could be testimonials, that might be videos, that might be just, actual helping people, like live, so they can see how you work and what happens via communication, et cetera. So your results have to be communicated, and a great way to communicate those are via social media. Okay. Not social media, via social proof. And that can be social media, of course. Okay. So again, going back to the original, we have who, and that is who specifically do you help, as specific as possible. We have what is the bleeding neck problem that you solve? And then how specifically can you help? And I talked about a couple of different elements of that that are really, really important. Results being key, program being kind of secondary, but also really important for both of you. Knowing that what they're really looking for is the results, not the number of hours that they're spent with you. So let's do this. Let's take a few minutes. Let's go off here and let's kind of go into the next phase. So let's say that you broke out a plain, sheet of paper. I love notebooks and I love writing, or maybe you just a new Word doc, and you started really thinking through and brainstorming all of this stuff. You brainstormed who you specifically want to work with. And let's say it's an industry that you're fairly new in, meaning that maybe you're an expert in that industry, but you've never had an offer directly to the industry, right? So you start thinking through this and you think, okay, well, this is really who I help. And you're able to narrow that demographically, and you're able to really think about what industry you want to work in. And you've really been able to narrow your niche well. Fantastic. You then think about the bleeding neck problem that you solve, and you have a good idea of what that bleeding neck problem is. Fantastic. And then you have your program outlined of what it is you're going to sell, what it is you're going to offer. And you even think through like results and begin to compile some social proof. Fantastic. Are you ready to test the market with that offer? In some cases, perhaps, but not in the case of somebody that is creating a brand new compelling offer to a market that they're not as familiar with. And when I say not as familiar, I mean you've not directly shared this offer with the marketplace. So what I would always suggest, and what I tell my clients always to do, is after you think through these things for yourself, you then want to do a little bit of research. You want to go into a research phase and learn a little bit about your market from the people that are already successful in your market. Now, we're not going to knock off anybody. We're not going to rip off their landing pages. We're not going to steal their copy. That's immoral, and we shouldn't do those things. However, it is a good idea to learn from people that are successful in the market what it is about their offer that makes other people in the same market you're in want to work with them and do business with them. So, like I said, let's use an example that I'm familiar with. And Unfortunately, I've actually done a number of books for clients, probably about a dozen, half a dozen that I can name off the top of my head. And some of those clients went into the publishing business and they said, well, Rob can do it, then I think I can do it too. And so they started their own kind of book publishing business or ghostwriting business or et cetera. And I'm not asking any of you to do that. However, if you are interested in doing that, I'm actually going to show you exactly how to do that. Again, this is just research and I'm not trying to create competition. But let's say that you were wanting to get in the ghostwriting or publishing or book launching space, PR, media, and that kind of thing. And you have your specific niche. Let's say it was children's books, or let's say it was fiction, and you have the bleeding neck problem, and that is dealing with really helping people to overcome writer's block and getting their books finished. Right? You're starting this small. You're not thinking about all the services. You're just thinking about one specific service. And then you think through your program and how you can actually help. The next step for you would be, hey, let's do a little bit of research. So you would do some research and you would, go online and search, best publishing companies or book writing companies or consultants to people that are writing fiction, et cetera. And, let's say that you found Bestseller Publishing, you found my website. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're just going to want to browse through it. How does Bestseller Publishing communicate to his marketplace, right? Oh, you see right here. Okay, well, here's something. Rob has a #1 best-selling book. We need to change this and update some of this stuff. But okay, so you look at that and you go, okay, get your free copy. Well, that's interesting. I wonder why he gives a free copy of it away. So you click on it, and now you come to this entire page, which is, video, which should pop up in a second. You have all of this content here. You have all of these testimonial videos, Russell Brunson, Kevin Harrington, Taki Moore. There are special bonuses being offered. There's a lot of copy here that you would want to pay attention to and read. Some maybe applies to you, some maybe doesn't apply to you, right? You go through it, you look, okay, you see all the different reviews. You may go from here to Amazon to see if my book is on Amazon and what type of reviews or what type of offer I'm making on Amazon. You go through it, you see all of these various videos. Maybe you watch 2 or 3 of those videos to learn what people are saying, because here are the customers, right? These are my actual customers that are saying positive things. So now you're getting feedback in your marketplace from people, from customers that are saying what it is that they appreciated and liked, right? So in other words, by just going through this page and clicking some videos, you could get a significant amount of research done about your marketplace and what it is that you're interested in. Okay. Now, what I would also suggest, if you ever find something like this, I would go through and I would buy the stuff. I have, and you guys have access to this, by the way, I have probably 20 different videos of free plus shipping book funnels, because whenever I see a compelling offer, I go and I buy it and I record it all. I look through the page, I learn from it. I don't care if it's in my space or not. I'm in the book space, so anybody selling a book can teach me something if they're selling a book online. So I go through it, I read, I watch, I look at, I spend a little bit of money, and in spending that money, I get maybe $1 million, depending on how successful the funnel is. I mean, no one would know that this page alone has brought in maybe $3.5 million to Bestseller Publishing in the last 2 years. Now, there's nothing that says that, but if someone went through and like bought it and paid attention to it, they for $7.95 could get like $3 million worth of research done. So if you go through people's stuff, you look at it, you pay attention to it, not with the idea of ripping anything off, but with the idea of learning about your marketplace and learning, is this offer or a similar offer to what you want to present to your market? Is this already something your market is interested in? Now, what you would also probably do, certainly if I were you, I would do it, is I would go to their social media. I would look up bestseller publishing. I would go through the social media itself, what's being posted, what's going on, what type of success stories are there, what type of examples of books are there, what type of media placements are there. This is all just research. It's all completely free. It takes no time to do a little bit of research into that. But when you do that, what you find is you find a lot more about my who, what, and how, right? In fact, if you went and kept going, you'd see like I'm actually speaking to my ideal client right here on the first page of my website. Does this sound familiar? I've been told many times I should write a book. I know a book will help me become more known in my business. I've tried to finish my book and I keep getting stuck. Some of this may not be interesting at all because it may not be like exactly what the person that is doing research is interested in doing and serving. But some of it may be like dead on. Like if that person was not interested in like the marketing of the book, right? But was interested in the actual helping people to finish the book, then some of this language, some of these questions, and I've used these questions very specifically because these are things that people have told me dozens and dozens of times, right? I know, Rob, that if I could just get my story out there, that it would do great. It would make an impact. It would make an income. I've heard these things over and over again. That's why I use this language. So as you go through and do some research, you start writing down, okay, who is Rob speaking to? What problem does Rob seem to be solving? And how is Rob able to help? Now, you may not be able to get all of that from the website, but you can learn an awful lot and get an awful lot of information just by doing a little bit of research. Now, here's what I would tell you. If you haven't gone through these steps, if you haven't thought about your who, your what, your how, and you haven't done research, then if you're in like the I'm creating my course now process, or I am building out my coaching program, or I have like this new consultancy that I'm building, I would say, hey, just why don't you just stop whatever you're doing and spend a little bit of time thinking about these things? Because these things are the most important part to creating a compelling offer. If you do research and you find that there is literally nobody selling to the market that you're interested in entering, then I would actually suggest that that's a terrible thing. Like some people would say, that's great. It's like a blue ocean. It's wide open for me. And I'd say, well, or maybe you're a pioneer and you're going to come back with a bunch of arrows in your back because, somebody's already tried it and it's not going to work. Right. I would rather, I don't want to enter a crowded market, but I'd rather enter a market where you see some business being done, you see people getting helped, and you know that you can step in with your magic and you can step in with your expertise and really add to that marketplace.